Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the NLC Day 5. We are going to be bringing you Game 2 in just a moment as UniQ face off against Domino. UniQ, a team that got their first win on the last game day. Domino still searching for the dub.
Yes, I wish I could pronounce the top laner's name, but I'm going to have to hand that over to you. But whichever name you say right now...
Hold on, veteran. We've got Fjumpan and Nihus, so...
Right,
well,
that
just
guy
give you both
is,
of them.
yeah. I mean, the first guy that you said is my man to watch on the side of Domino's. Does occur to me both those names are going to be a struggle, but that's why I have you here. You know, that's why I have you here. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. But yeah, the top laner for Domino, that's my man to watch for them. I am interested to see where Antwerp goes with UniQ, though honestly it was their carry lanes that were stealing the show in their one win. UniQ are on a win. Despite all expectations, they have managed to pull it out. Domino still seeking that one win, and Enchanter's out, the Akali is out, they don't want to give that over. But AD carry is UniQ's immediate bans. Ashe gone, Varus gone. This disrupts this very clear hierarchy that we've had, where you go something like Varus into the Caitlyn, Ashe into the Varus, Jhin into the Ashe, and then Caitlyn right back again. We have now disrupted that. The immediate thought process there is I'm thinking of either a Jhin or a Caitlyn. Let's see what ends up happening here. But, you know, Lucian Army is still up. Right, that could just get insta-locked faster than anything you've ever seen. Concord has come back because it is zooming straight onto the key to lock Lucian Nami, but it's going to be Vi first. And that means it's difficult for UniQ to commit to the Zeri Yuumi composition that has been very, very popular in response to those Lucian Namis. So Domino, they may have secured themselves Zeri Yuumi and Vi with one pick. Maokai is still on the board, though, so let's see what ends up happening.
Yeah, Antwerp hasn't yet played it, this split, but I mean, with the raw power that the champion have, it's something that you should be opting towards, and makes a lot of sense, veteran.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it happens, and now we'll see what they think. Is it going to be Lucian Army for them, or do they feel confident to go for the Yuumi, or are they going to go for the Karma, having seen in the last game how well that can be executed into the Lucian Army? But into the Zeri, perhaps, that Domino have open for them? Would it actually be as effective? It could if you're thinking about it in terms of making Maokai able to get into those kinds of champions. Syndra being hovered, that's good disengage against what's clearly an engaged composition coming up from UniQ right now. Where a lot of power on Antwerp just from the first two picks on UniQ's draft. Karma zooming the Maokai in, that's an instant pick. If they can get some good follow-up with that, you know you're against Here heavy engage. So Syndra, good disengage start, can also set up for the Vi with her stuns, and Nautilus coming in as well. This is a lot of very heavy disengage. Unless you're a big Hylissang fan, you can play Nautilus to disengage. So
I look at these three champions and I think there is possibly nothing that I'd hate more as a Zeri player than to go against something like this. So I think Domino is really indexed into shutting down hyper carries, right? Not just the Zeri, but maybe even something like a Sivir. And that win that UniQ got against Veneer was off the back of Paul and Cyrax being really strong carries. And the Xayah, while it can be a strong carry, also brings a little bit of disengage and a little bit more safety than other marksmen.
I mean, she's worried about being heavily picked against the Vi, against the Syndra, against the Nautilus, and the Xayah, her ultimate can counter all of that, and it also lets you play elsewhere on the map if you so desire. The old Fnatic special with the Reckless Hylissang bot lane, they like to go Xayah Rakan because Reckless could be left alone 1v2 while Rakan did everything around the map in the good old days where that meant Hylissang would carry the game. So the thinking could be alive here with that. They have disengaged, and at the same time, if you make a pick with the Maokai, the Xayah can follow up as well, right? It kind of does it all, but we upset the apple cart by banning the Varus, by banning the Ashe. both Lucian and Zeri struggle very heavily into the immense amounts of pick and even long-range pick on the side of Domino's here that's on right now, so neither Lucian nor Zeri have made it through into the draft. It'd be interesting to see the carry that Domino actually end up picking, because, you know, I don't want to play Lucian, I don't want to play Zeri into a Maokai, and it's very difficult to play either of those champions' ranges. They're low-range champions we're talking about, into the Zion Karma as well, so interesting to see where they goes. What they don't want is for their top laner to be stopped by apparently an unstoppable split-pushing Chad Behemoth. Looking at these bans, Tryndamere, Camille, Jax, my god, what monster are Unique hiding up there in the top lane?
Potentially something very, very scary, although Neos has been defaulting back to more relaxed top laners. That is a Yasuo locked in. I'm imagining that's going to be going towards Paul.
Something that the Maokai opens up that we haven't talked about. AD solo lanes, right?
Yes.
So much damage. Razork had a 900 DPM gain on that Maokai. You have so much magic damage that you can go for the Yasuos, you can go for the Yons, you can go for the Zeds. That's why you'll see people like Dejal head to those now, and you're seeing Paul head towards that here. Obviously, we don't think it's going to be bot lane for Zyrax. The Kai'Sa being hovered... No, wait. That's
been locked. That's been locked.
That is... So Kai'Sa is something that we haven't seen very much of for a while, but it has good synergy with the Nautilus. Nautilus R onto anything that is trying to zoom away here. The Kai'Sa can immediately R to follow up. But the Xayah can get out of those kinds of crowd controls that I haven't seen Kai'Sa for... This is a very old school draft that Dominos are doing here. There's a lot of setup for pick for the Vi, but there isn't a hyper carry here. They're not playing to disengage against the full engage team. They are actually playing all in on the engage with the Kai'Sa. That's so interesting.
I think what they've ended up putting together is something that just completely destroys an isolated target, right? If you get caught on your own versus like really any combination of the champions that Domino have locked in, it's bad news bears, right? And Veteran, that Braum, I believe, has been locked. So are we getting a Karma top lane?
Yep, with the Renekton in response to it. Domino saw it before we did. They knew that it was going to be Karma top. Renekton with his anti-shield mechanics is actually very good into the Karma if you can get the fights off. And Antwer is on the champion that is more likely to be able to respond early than the Vi. If you can't get the fights off, then the Karma will just shove you permanently and start playing for that Yasuo, for that Xayah. I love the last pick Braum because we are just talking about how Dominos are actually just all-inning on engage and pick. And Braum, the quintessential disengage champion. And what do I always say when I see Braum on the screen? Level 1. They dominate level 1 right now. They have Karma, a really safe top side. So I expect to see a heavy level 1 invade from Unique to try to accelerate the game from early and finally win a game on their own terms. The only win we've really got from Unique was a massive comeback that was somewhat handed to them. But here we could maybe see Unique get a lead and close it out like Veneer just learned to do, right? Maybe we see that development. Or on the side of Dominos, they're like, no, we've waited too long for this. We are going to get this win, and we're going to make you feel some pain along the way. All in, all the time. That's what their composition does. And maybe they just do not care about your Braum, your Xayahs, your Maokais.
I think what we can really see from both compositions is that there is an emphasis on engage to a certain extent. I think Domino a little bit more than Unique, a fair
little,
bit more,
just a tad.
I think what Unique are bringing sort of in response to that is a lot more of this disengage, right? You've got the Braum, you've got the Karma as well. The Maokai can be used in that situation as well. And it feels like the composition for Unique has got a couple more modes of operation which will give it that extra flexibility in different scenarios. If Domino can execute on their win condition of just blowing up someone, just jumping on top of them, killing them, that's absolutely great. But I'm worried for them if we start seeing these larger team fights where you can't just one-shot that target.
It's okay, Middlecourt, it's okay. I just double-checked. We both bet on Unique today. So because we do have heavy disengage against engage. It's Unique's game to win. It really is. They have to prove that they can execute a game plan that is winning from the off, from the very first moment of the game. So you want to see that performance from them. But when it comes to apparently Veneer, I mean, Veneer just weren't. They're not done with one win. They want to come in for the second win of the day. Apparently, interesting. Yeah, I mean, we don't normally expect these kind of compositions from Veneer, though, do we? Like, you know, this is a triple threat composition from them. That's not the Veneer that we used to.
Veteran, you're being a menace.
Oh, okay. But this is the kind of thing we do expect from Dominoes, right? Once one lane wins, it's easy for them to get the transference to the second, easy for them to get transference to the third. Once one of them is in, they are all in. Very appropriate to the name of Dominoes. It'll be interesting to see if they ever get it off, because honestly, you know, if UniQ get their groupings, if UniQ get their timings, they win. For Dominoes, it has to be, all right, we have this window. We must execute on it now. Decisive plays, which could lead to a very explosive game.
So I'm imagining from the way that you're speaking, Veteran, it's kind of a similar gambit to what we thought last game was going to be. We've got one team who kind of needs to make stuff happen in a very, very ostentatious way, whereas on the other side, of the red side team, could be a little bit more relaxed. Pedersen looking for something at the level 1 here. Wasn't able to get an invade, but has snuck himself into this near bush. And you need to care for the Braum in this stage of the game.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't go for the map split. They've decided leaving the Karma alone with the Renekton may be too much. They didn't even go for a full-on invade on bot side. Although I do see deep red in the jungle. That's nice, but you're not seeing those possible big plays from UniQ there. Vi, though, did she not finish the Wraiths? Or was that a camera thing? Who knows? But Vi going up towards the Renekton, she can make a choice here. Either play for the Renekton or pivot straight back down towards the bot side. So both teams thinking with that bot side in mind.
And I mean, that's the great thing for the Vi. There are lots of lanes with lots of setup that you can play towards, so we're not going to get a scenario that we had last game where like you can't really gank your Karma Ezreal, right? Because there just isn't set up CC there. You've got Ruthless Predator, you've got Scatter the Weak, and you've got the entirety of existence of Nautilus in the bottom lane. The map is very, very open for you, and Antwerp doesn't really have the same sort of luxury.
Yeah, I mean, just think of Domino's composition like their name. Not substandard pizza, but actually just straight up one person gets one thing off and the rest of the dominoes follow, right? Syndra gets a lock off, Vi can go in, Kai'Sa can go in, Nautilus can go in, Renekton can go in. Honestly, Kai'Sa should go in last on all of that, but one thing hits and it can all hit. Renekton got the priority top, immediately shifting into mid. We've talked about this since draft. Let's see if they can get the execution off. This is the window.
Early flash from Paul. Beautiful wind wall from Paul. And it will just be that summoner spell, but that is a big time commitment from Domino, but they do get the flash. And
they can re-engage.
Yomban's just going to stick around here. Paul's going aggressive, looking for something, but it's going to result in his death for sure. The flash, Ruthless Predator into the Scatter the Weak, and there's no amount of dashes that can get you out of that. Shaolin's going to burn, but he's not quite going to die.
Oh, and play on bot side
lane, though, Larry is being ult into, has already burnt the flash. No cleanse for the Kai'Sa, and that is a kill for Cyrax. Bit more action early on, kills traded all over the map.
Much more complex from Domino's. They shift their Renekton from the free wave crash into the midsection, and they see UniQ makes their first mistake. Paul tries to re-crash the fourth wave into the tower in a scenario where he doesn't know where top is, where he knows jungle is looking to do something off of their camps now, and they go in and they get the re-engage as well. But UniQ, they execute their game plan. They went top to bot, they have a pick, they know that they can execute on it, and they go straight for it. The Maokai point and click, boom, first kill on bot. Opening salvos from both teams, right? But you can already see UniQ, right? They have a very clear game plan. They kind of had to give Domino's the opportunity to do something mid. But hats off to Domino's, right? They saw those few seconds, and they were committed. Right? They actually were committed. It's still an uphill struggle for Domino's, but more stuff like that, and crucially more mistakes from UniQ, and they could actually have something.
And I think you touched on something really interesting there, talking about how it felt like UniQ had a clear game plan, because I think, honestly, something that you could have ascribed to both of these teams for the first four games is there wasn't really a clear identity or a way that they wanted to play the game, but Domino make it very apparent that mid lane is a focus, at least for this game. And the way that UniQ have drafted with this Yasuo mid, with this Xayah in the bottom lane, and Neas on a Karma is going to be a bit more supportive. They are recognizing who are the strong players on their team, who are going to be able to do that damage and hopefully grab them some wins.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, their composition's built for it, right? Especially when you look at this top lane matchup, right? The Karma into the Renekton, right? I love it when people are putting the enchanters in the top lane, but it puts so much on the carries to be able to do something. But this can also group really, really well with jungle setups, and the Karma synergizes really well with that jungler to help enable the rest of the team. UniQ, they're going to be able to get this first Drake of the priority that they have bot. Domino's, they're seeking any potential avenue to open the game again in their favor. Renekton going for as many fights as he can on top. He knows with that Drake going down that Antwerp is bot side. Let's see if he tries to find something mid again. Shaolin, he knows this is another window. He sets up a possible freeze. But honestly, if you're high up on game knowledge, you know this is actually going to crash back into Yasuo. When the minions are spread thin like that, in a line towards the opponent, it guarantees several 6v1s, so that wave's actually pushing in, and Paul doesn't make the same mistake twice. When Necton's leaning in, he realizes Shaolin's made a small error, and he's punished him for it by just pressing B and recalling, guys. Sometimes in your solo queue games, it's fine to just press B and go, guys, alright? You don't have to contest every single minion, and he's back to a nice wave, with an economy advantage. He spent his money, and Renekton didn't get anything on that window. Domino's, UniQ did not allow them to get the first one falling.
Excuse me, veteran. I'm not the most intelligent person, but I was under the impression that Renekton's abilities were meant to do damage to people when he attacked them. That was
I mean,
a great
Karma
trade for
sometimes just says no to that. Okay, that's just a thing that you have to accept when you're playing against this champ. Sometimes it's all for naught. Well, I mean,
but maybe not.
Maybe. Sometimes means mostly it's gonna go well. And like I said, Renekton needs to get the fights off, and you know, it happened so fast in the blink of an eye, we didn't even get to see it. Man, there's just a dead cursing.
The caster cursing today has been quite incredible already. We had a couple of them last game. We've already had one today. And I mean, Fjompen now 2-0. This is kind of where you need the Renekton to be at a point of early power that you can start shifting around the map and use to maybe get priority. For Herald fights, Domino rotating their entire roster towards the top side of the Rift, recognizing the power that this objective can have.
But Xayah, she's going to get a crash off on bot lane. That's going to be a lot of minions lost. And honestly, she can just go for plates here. You only have the ball, like you have the ball coming down, but you know the Nautilus, you know the Kai'Sa can't be there. If she gets 2 plates from here, she basically equalizes what the Herald could give, except she has an XP advantage. Sure, Domino's get an objective on the map, and it could help them accelerate the game by maybe taking out a tower, but they are not winning economically off of that play. UniQ, they stay calm, they just keep their lanes going, and they get a huge advantage on their bot lane just from that. Actually, a really good play by UniQ, just by doing absolutely nothing at all. Don't get baited into that fight, don't get baited into that skirmish, you don't even need to fight it.
Not sure if that was a deliberate Herald summon there from Skjald, but has been used, and it will crash into that tower regardless.
Yeah. I think that was deliberate. I think it makes, at least it makes a lot of sense for them to do.
Hold on, bot lane, and we're throwing out the Nature's Grasp. It is going to secure a double route actually onto the bot lane of Domino as Sarex falls into the sky, and Domino fall into their grave. Snabby is going to be stunned under tower. A double kill for Pedersen, and he pays for it with his life.
That's fine. Actually, by dying there, Pedersen secures more XP for Cyrax.
200 IQ, and by not dying there, Neas will secure a bit more XP for himself. Domino's still looking for the redive, and
too soon.
Yeah, that's easy as you like. 3-0 for Fjompen on the Renekton.
What do you have against Neas, my man? Like you keep cursing him. He's alive, he's fine, he's chilling, and you're like, oh, he's not going to die here, and then boom, immediate, another death. But this bot lane dive, they juggled aggro very well until they didn't, but again, 200 IQ, the Xayah gets more XP from those 4 minions that she just killed on screen there. And Braum, doesn't give over that bounty to anyone particularly important, so... pretty good plays on both sides, but the Renekton, that's the big threat now for Domino's. I like them dropping the Herald on the top side. I like them trying to get this tower down, because if you can get that Renekton on the map, maybe he can cosplay Lingui from blue side on our previous game for Vanir, where he was making a lot happen on the Gragas. The Renekton has a lot of utility to offer. Maybe he can be the thing that prevents UniQ just playing out a laning phase that should benefit them, right? Maybe you can play 2v2 out, but can you play 3v2 out, 4v3 out, 5v4, right? Shove in the Karma, get Renekton out that lane, make him the X factor that can flip this game in Domino's favor.
And I mean, you can already see that right off of the resets. Fionbon is pathing towards this Drake, which has just spawned. UniQ were able to pick up the first one in this game, but it'd be a very, very bad idea to try and contest with a Gordrinker, Caulfield's, Warhammer, Renekton at this point in the game.
We're only 11 minutes into the game as well, and you know what? It's easy to forget, but there is no teleport available for Karma to just insta-go in on this fight here. She has to go all the way to the tower, which gives Domino so much time to get started on the Drake.
Oh, Hook connecting there onto the Brahmas. Fionbon is going to be able to get into the middle of everyone. They are able to lock down Larry, who can get away with that killer instinct. Drake goes actually in favor of Domino. Fionbon is dead. Domino have fumbled the fight in the bottom side river. They've given a shutdown to Cyrex, and they've given a kill to Paul. Stabby, how have you ended up here, buddy? That's going to be another one going in favor of UniQ. 3-0 around the Drake.
A 2k gold lead existed for Domino's before this fight, but after this fight, it has vanished, and they were correct. The Karma can't just teleport on top of her team here, but they did not pull the trigger fast enough. They had to get it before Karma went to tower, before Karma moved from tower towards the Drake. They had to pull the trigger way faster, and they just weren't on time for it. And so UniQ, they're able to get everything they wanted. The numbers advantage Domino's had ended up being completely false, and now Domino's, they're on the back foot, and UniQ, they have to be feeling pretty comfortable with this game. Both of their carries, the primary ones that they need to be fed, they both have bounties right now. They both have gold. They're going back to spend it. This is now a very difficult game for Domino's to try to win.
Yeah, that 2,000 gold advantage before the fight has turned into a 2,000 gold advantage in UniQ's favor, and Cyrex has got himself a Mythic and a Caulfield's Warhammer. This Xayah very, very close already to that Navori Quickblaze, but it's going to make the feather pulls incredibly painful for Domino to deal with.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's difficult to think of how Domino's could bring this back. You at least have teleport advantage on the Renekton, so maybe they can leverage that in 30 seconds when Unleashed Teleport is up and get a full man advantage playing away from the Karma, away from the Yasuo, away from one of these key players. If they're able to do that, then it doesn't become a factor of timings unless, Yasuo is able to just zoom from top lane to bot lane. If they can split them around the map and then play with that TP advantage, that's the next play Domino's can do to maybe bring themselves in the game.
And they do need to do that, because this composition can get outscaled and it can run out of damage very, very quickly if you aren't on or even really ahead of curve veteran. But looking at the game state right now, okay, we're 13.5 minutes in, tower plates are just about to fall off, and UniQ, they're in a much better spot with this composition than I thought they should have been at this stage.
I mean, yeah, it should. I was honestly very surprised by how much Domino's were able to get off on the top side there, right? Yeah. Yes, the Renekton can win these fights into the Karma, but Karma also knows when her jungler is showing on bot side and when Renekton can have that knowledge, and yet it seemed to always be in a state favourable for Renekton to just go all in and just erase her from the map, except for those few seconds where you're watching her and it looked like he does no damage whatsoever. Like, outside of that clear bug that happened on our screen, right, the Renekton was able to get so much top that he almost turned the entire game in their favor. I think if they just trigger pull on that Drake a little bit faster, then they're in a very good position, but they start the Drake instead. They don't try to actually end the game before Karma can make the numbers there. Or if you let Karma go there, now you have TP advantage on Renekton. Let Renekton go up and threaten tier 2s, right? Set up on the other side of the map. Play with that TP advantage, right? A couple of very small decisions they could have made that could have turned the game not just in their favor, they were already in the gold lead, but put them in a winning position for the rest of the game. But that's the trouble with Domino's draft, right? It relies on them executing these tiny windows, right? And right now, that window is in 30 seconds. You have that unleashed teleport on Renekton, right? You have it, and Karma does not. Let's play before the Karma gets the TB back. Try to play away from someone. Let's see what they can do. They've decided to play heavy away from the Karma here. They're stacking in the bush for Paul. He's going in.
Well, he's going down as well. A shutdown secured for Shaolin, his first kill of the game, and exactly what Domino needed. But hold up, there are three people pushing in the mid lane, and spoiler alert, Larry is not going to be able to defend that tower. So once again, he steps too far forward, and he gets absolutely exploded. A teleport's going to come in from Fjumpen, as Skal is also joining the play, and with a beautiful Bramble Smash to prevent the engage from coming through. UniQ still on the run as Snubby is moving over. He is going to be able to lock down the Braum. Edison puts up the shield and should be fine for the time being. UniQ continuing to make their escape through the bot side river, and they will be able to get away.
Just as they make a pick with numbers advantage away from the rest of the team, so too does the numbers advantage and the teleport advantage vanish. We were talking about Lucian Zhe being low-range champions, but Kai'Sa is the queen of the absolute low-range AD carries, and Larian trying to step up and do damage is in threat range of everybody. Dies, causes TP from Renekton, and suddenly it's very difficult to see a way that Domino's can come back on this setup. UniQ are extremely grouped around this Herald. This is not contestable. They just have to trade away from the entire team of UniQ, and it looks like all the pings are being thrown out on bot side. They want to take that jungle. They want to maybe look into taking that tier 1 tower, but at some point they're going to have to respond to the Herald that is just being handed to UniQ.
Yeah, because at the moment, Domino's are kind of playing with scraps, right? When a team is in this advantageous position and you're trying to trade, there's no dragon on the map, there's not really a tower that's in range, it's jungle camps, it's waves of minions, and whilst those are great, probably not going to win you the game. And I want to shout out Cyrax, by the way. This guy had a rough couple of games right at the start of the split, but on the Zeri last time out versus Veneer, and now on the Xayah versus Domino, he's been having some pretty decent performances.
Yeah, no, I've really liked Cyrax this game. Especially on the bot dives, they were executed really, really well. In the bot 2v2, he's playing well. Obviously, he has an advantage from draft, but the execution's been there, right? Like, we can't necessarily say the same about Pool 227 this game, who's been caught out a couple of times, but Cyrax has been like a rock for his team. And that's great, because the team did pivot their early game plan around him. So good showing from him. And it's nice to be able to finally talk about UniQ strengths, how they're playing, which players of theirs we want to watch more, which players of theirs, you know, are potentially picking up the slack, right? It's an identity that is finally forming around UniQ, something they have been struggling with up until this point. But in this game, they got everything they wanted. They haven't played it perfectly, but they've played it well enough that we can finally see a team forming out of these 5 players.
So if we're, I guess, looking on the other side then, at Domino, who've had decent play and are trying to make some in the top lane here, Snabby and Skal moving towards Neos and Pedersen, but ultimately deciding they can't do it. What do we think this game is looking like for them? What is this game telling us about how Domino are currently operating?
I mean, they are very committed to this particular style of all dive all the time, even when the first disengage options are from UniQ, but they're all in.
I mean, it works onto Advert, right? There's that feather slide from Cyrax, protecting himself and that shutdown. But I guess that's what the composition does. It picks someone and it deletes them. The issue is, unless you're doing that onto the Xayah, it's probably not going to work out too well for you.
I honestly wonder how much of this is Snabby, because he's being a participant in every single one of these kinds of picks that they've been doing, and they've been working out, right? Generally, if UniQ find a response, it's away from the death squads, where Snarby always seems to be involved on that Nautilus. And these death squads are what they need. They need to isolate. They need to get them before they're grouped, because if they're fully grouped with the Braum, with the Xayah, with the Karma, with the Maokai, with all of these, it's nigh and impossible to get in. Even just trying to take out Paul once with that Yasuo wind wall is very, very difficult to do. But, you know, they've found it. They found it at least 6 times this game. Hopefully they find it again. If Domino's win, it's going to be on the back of this Death Squad Fnatic Crush setup that they like to be running.
And I think when you start looking towards like bigger objectives, as maybe Pedersen is going to opt to get a play here, just throwing out a little bit of attempted damage to try and keep this mid lane tower standing. But I think when we start getting towards these big objectives, I think that style of play can become really interesting, because you're not playing for the fight around the objective itself. You're trying to catch UniQ as they're moving towards it. Maybe Paul is a little bit too far away from Pedersen. Maybe Cyrax has found himself on his own. And then if you can get that pick onto that key member, you can move towards the objective, and it's going to be a hell of a lot more beneficial. It's difficult to find those picks if you don't have a mid lane tower, though, and this one has been taking a hell of a beating, almost fallen down.
But this is off of the big error earlier, right? The one that gave over the Herald. Sure, they were able to trade it for bot tier 1 eventually, and honestly, in any other circumstance, with that pick mid and that bot tier 1, they were ahead on tempo. But Paul, with the Herald on top side, flips that script upside down. The Herald, really good way for you to get tempo, leans towards mid, and there's nothing that can be done to prevent UniQ from getting this. Kai'Sa doesn't have the range underneath the tower. No one really has the range underneath the tower to not just be in the danger zone, so they're able to pick it off, modeling it as a 5-man with Yasuo leaning in, even though he's effectively playing 2 lanes at once there. And so all of Domino's have to recall off that tier 1 bot. They can't take the tier 2. They don't have a tempo lead anymore. The game is once again in UniQ's hands.
That has been a pretty safe place for it, as they're not a team that's gotten many leads, but when they have, they've stuck. As we are now 20 minutes in, Baron is available, and I'm going to expect that we're going to start seeing an acceleration of the tempo, not from Domino, but from UniQ now, because getting on those objectives is the thing that is going to end up winning you the game, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when it comes to those objectives contests, though, like, it's similar to the previous game. I see one team has a pretty big advantage there, but there is a caveat there, right? Which is if this Karma Xayah composition splits off in the instances before and Domino's catch them on the death squads, that's how they're able to get the plays.
I mean, that's what they're going for here. Flash hook from
eventually.
Snarby. They've managed to catch out Pedersen as he's stunned. He is going to be able to use his own ultimate, but they are dropping everything on the Braum, and Fjomben is going to be able to get a shutdown. There is a response coming through from UniQ, though, as Pedersen will able to take out skills. Fjomben going for the stun. Larry snares, and whereas Cyrax is forced out under his tower and does just about get the snare off. A rampage kill for the UniQ AD carriers. It has been a 2 for 2 in this fight, and that's all it will be. But Neas steps a little bit too far forward, so now Larry can pump damage into the Karma. The Acathian rain burns like acid, but hold on, Paul's just split pushing top lane.
Yes, the whole time that fight was happening, Paul was splitting. They found the numbers advantage. They were even able, thanks to Fjomben, able to get a heavy amount in the extended scenario. But that was because Paul was just topside the entire time, deleting towers on the Yasuo. It's actually incredible how fast the Yasuo is able to delete towers like this, but, you know, Domino's able to pick up some kills. But if they do something like that again, Yasuo is suddenly threatening Nexus.
I mean, that's the danger, right? We were talking about Paul potentially getting caught out a lot of times. If no one's near him, he's absolutely fine to do exactly that. And now Fjomben is going to have to respond to that wave being shoved in. Does have the teleport if he needs to join the rest of his team. And Domino, whilst they are at a goal disadvantage, they've got first move into the river, and they are starting up the Baron. The Nature's Grasp being pulled from Antwerp. That is a very aggressive teleport from Fjomben. He dives in with the ultimate and gets one shot. Paul with that kill as a double knockup lands onto Stubby and Lowry from the Glacial Fissure. At Cyrax will pump a load of damage. Unstoppable on the Xayah. Taking down Snabby. Domino get the Drake, but they lose the fight.
2 lives for 1 Drake, but they do deny UniQ the soul point, which means they can make a choice later if they want to trade Baron for Drake or Drake for Baron and vice versa. Fjomben gave his life for that. They have to make it count, but you know, you can feel this game slipping away from Domino slowly but surely. Fights that they win, they lose a lot. Neutral objectives where they gain the objective, they still lose a lot for it. And
hold on. We've got a fight emerging, and UniQ are winning it as it stands. Larry with a very smart flash to get away for the moment before he will give another kill over to Cyrax. 6-0-6 on the Xayah. This guy is having an absolutely immense performance, but hold on. Domino don't want him to go any further, as somehow Vi has ended up in the backline, but it's not enough to kill the AD carry. Cyrax is godlike. Finally, a shutdown will come through onto the UniQ AD carry, but that's the only kill that Domino are going to be able to get here, as Fjompon is so incredibly low. One more concussive blow would stun him up. Pascal is also waiting in the wings, but he will opt away from the fight. UniQ get another play around the Baron, but they don't take the objective.
Absolutely insane stuff, actually. So we were talking about how UniQ's Baron setups are pretty good because they can just peel off and immediately engage when their opponents are contesting them. But if Domino's is able to catch them out early on, maybe they can get that 4v1, 3v1, 4v2, what have you, with the numbers advantage. In this scenario, Domino's had 2 players dead, they had got an objective for it, and they still decided that they had to opt in for the contest. It was the worst case scenario for Domino's, the scenario of trying to actively avoid the whole game, but UniQ immediately forced them into it by going straight onto the Baron. If that's going to be endemic of the rest of the game, then it looks very favoured for UniQ. Domino's can't afford to make too many decisions like that. They have to rely on catching people out. Cyrax had no ultimate, no summoners, and they figured that was free food, but the Braum, the Karma, the disengage is enough. It's there. It's impossible to get on these carries while those guys are either alive or near them, so you have to get a scenario one of those two is not true.
UniQ have now started up the Baron. And it's so difficult to move in if you are Domino. They're going to go for it, though. 4,000 HP on the objective scale, going around the back, possibly looking for a steal here as a bit of damage is being dropped onto Pedersen. The Nature Squad's going to be opened up, and Antwer is incredibly low. The Vi is in the pit and is going to find access onto Cyrax in the front line. Pedersen and Paul are preventing the engage from Domino. Vi knocked into the air. A load of damage actually coming out from the Renekton, as finally someone will drop in the fight, and it's Pedersen. He's dead. Hold on. 2 kills going in favor of Domino, but it's not going to go for much longer. It's actually Fjompon is turning it around. This is 4 kills for Domino, and Antwer is caught out and dead. Somehow, Domino find a fight around the Baron, and they will claim their prize.
The kill onto Cyrax was absolutely devastating. All the DPS was immediately lost. Yasuo was finding it so difficult to actually enter the fight actively against everything that Domino's had in front of him. The Renekton can control the Yasuo very well. The Nautilus can control him very well. Look at this fight. They get onto Pedersen. Pedersen doesn't actually have anything to disengage with now. That's one source left. And Fjompon right on top of Cyrax. Everybody else dives on top. That carries down. It's very easy to control the Yasuo. You have the W, you have the anti-shielding mechanisms on the Renekton. The rest of them become free food. If Cyrax goes down, the fight is easy. It just should be difficult to get to that point. Pedersen, Antwer, Nias, Paul even, they all just have to sit on top of this Xayah. Xayah cannot split from them. If they get rid of those disengage tools, they can still win these fights, and that's got to be a confidence booster for Domino's.
And I tell you what, they took that fight at a 5,000 gold disadvantage when it looked like they were kind of out of the game, but they are still here. They are still in with a fighting chance, and if they can get this Drake, which is spawning soon, then they're going to be on Soul Point. And if you've got a Hextech Soul, then compositional differences can be overcome pretty damn easily. UniQ are searching for mid lane priority, but that's so difficult to get against a Baron.
I mean, Cyrax is on 14,000 gold, so if you insta-delete him, you're actually operating at a 9k gold advantage, aren't you? If you're 5k gold down. That's the calculus that they're running, and that's the calculus that worked out for them in the last fight. Pedersen, he has gotten rid of his big disengage tool already. Domino's are going to be on Soul Point from this. UniQ, they're not feeling the confidence anymore to just take fights if any of their disengage is down. Not after the last one. Dominoes have put the fear of God into them.
Still going to be looking for a push, and Fionbum isn't really in the best position to stop this from happening. Shaolin actually going for a little bit of a shove in the bottom lane, but is going to reset very quickly as UniQ aren't stopping with the push. As more members of Domino turn up, I think that they may do an opportunity for a flank TP, but 28 minutes in, this game has become a hell of a lot closer than perhaps it should have been, but that is all credit to Domino. They found themselves in a rough spot and they fought their way out of it.
I mean, UniQ are the team that is on the back foot now. Even though they have a small goal advantage, they are the ones against Soulpoint. They are the ones that have been playing against this Baron pressure for the last couple of minutes. They are the ones that are reevaluating their situation and how they're playing out these scenarios. Domino's, they're in control of the map. There is no Herald to take tempo back from them with a split-pushing pool. They just have to meet Domino's on their own turn.
The question then becomes for Domino is, how much can you actually push with this? Because I look at this composition and I think this isn't a group of champions that is going to siege particularly well. It's going to dive amazingly, but if you're diving into a tower, it could be a rough spot. Paul, what are you doing, buddy? You're not allowed to clear that wave. Yes, you get a 3-person ultimate, but you're going to die for it. That's not hashtag worth.
Well, it's the individual pick. The first domino has fallen. Let's see if they get the rest. It's still a terrible composition to siege with. Maokai has the ultimate, Xayah has the ultimate, and the feathers. Karma's there to shield everybody. You can't just immediately pivot off of that into a tower, but more things like that is how they win the game. Drake is not up, Baron is not up, but if they maintain this pressure, and UniQ have to go through a Domino's control jungle to get to those areas, they can set up bigger picks like that where they could conceivably end the game off. That's the game plan for Domino's now. Make sure that you're getting your resets off on time. Make sure you don't lose too much control. Make sure that if they're going to take back this vision now, they're doing it off tempo. See, even though they're getting Baron control, they have to reset, which means that Domino should have the confidence to take that vision back and look to pressure again and get this topside jungle. If they get that done, you want to bait around Baron, and if you set up another Death Rush, right, and you catch them off guard again, that's your window in. But don't get cocky. Think, does Vorm have the ultimate? Does Yasuo have the Windwall? Does Xayah have the ultimate? What about Maokai, right? Think that at all times. If any of those are no, maybe this is a fight that you can take. But otherwise, maybe it's time to just reset and re-engage. They're not having the confidence to just enter here and retake all vision, though. They have to compete for mid-priority first. And that is still difficult for them if UniQ are groups.
So, interesting proposition. In around about a minute's time, veteran, Baron is going to be spawning. In around about a minute 30's time, potential Hextech Soul is going to be spawning for Domino. Do UniQ go, actually, we're not going to play for this Baron at all. We're going to go towards the Drake and deny the Soul and bet that we can ride out the Baron. Is that a realistic proposition for them?
That's the calculus that Domino's gave 2 lives to avoid. They did not want UniQ to be able to give them that kind of a choice where they decide between the Baron, decide between the Drake. But yes, UniQ could potentially get split by that decision themselves. The thing UniQ need to do is be so fast on the Baron contest that the Drake doesn't have enough time to force them to make the split decision. Because right now, either decision could theoretically be good for Domino's. So you want to avoid that. So pressing on the Baron, which I think they were beginning to do just before the pause, is what they want to be doing.
As we have just got another pause, another peripheral issue, veteran. We did 2 in one day. That's quite spectacular. But as the game stands, it's pretty perfectly poised, right? Both teams even on kills. We've got one team that's got the potential for a Baron, that's got the potential for a Hextech Soul, but you look on the other side and you've got this hyper-scaling Xayah who is still incredibly strong if you aren't able to deal with her, and it means that the next fight, I think, is probably going to decide this game.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I absolutely believe it. Because if Dominoes are able to win, they're able to claim the soul on the Drake, the second Baron. But honestly, 32 minutes in, this Baron's going to be extremely powerful if Unique take it, and they have the tools that can siege, that can go full extended with this Baron. Unique, they're heavily contesting mid, but look how much they are leaning towards this Baron side. They want to try to force Dominoes into them, but Dominoes is saying, you know what? We know that if we delay this as long as humanly possible, you have to make an impossible decision between the Soul and the Baron, and we're going to let you guys do that. We don't think you're going to go start the Drake, and we're just going to lean so heavily down to the side when none of you are in that you don't get the engage off. Maokai Yasuo are off to the side. They're trying to find something, but Dominoes, they're ready to just go straight back towards bot side at a moment's notice. Very patient play for them, very good, but eventually you have to make a pick. You're the guys pressured to do that. Burn something. Maybe they can burn Vorm again. Maokai coming out.
It's only going to connect onto Fjumpen. That Renekton is not a priority target at this stage in the game, but Domino found themselves a little bit split, and they found their Renekton with 30% HP. He's going to have to back and teleport back in, which is going to give Unique a potential window. They've started up the Drake. Snarby is
TP.
looking around, thinking about a hook. He is going to be able to connect it onto Pedersen, get a multi-person knock-up, but that is a huge windwall. It's going to deny so much damage. Nias is being jumped onto, and they have found the Maokai. They have found the Xayah, and Domino have found the fight. Paul is going to be isolated and taken out on the other side. A double for Larry. TPs towards the base. Domino don't give a damn about the Drake. They're looking for the Nexus.
The ultimate from Maokai found Fiombu, but all that did was send him to recall, and he TP flanked behind them, went straight on top of the Xayah. The Xayah's ultimate was not enough. The Xayah's flash just wasn't there. Vi was able to get in. One person gets on top, the rest of them follow. Cyrax falls, and that's the Domino that completed the... Is it a puzzle? Completed the entire puzzle. Whatever it completed, Domino's come out with a win and are finally on the board. The first step on the potential conquest of this bottom rung of the NLC. Dominoes have entered the game.
And it wasn't easy. They had that lead in the early game. We thought they threw it away, but through a couple of very well-fought team fights, they were able to lock down Cyrax. They were able to isolate that Xayah in the middle of the team fight, remove her from relevance, and for all the peel tools that Unique had, ultimately wasn't enough in the end.
It wasn't, but honestly, that was a full uphill battle for Dominoes the entire time, right? They're not a team that should have won. I obviously voted against them winning at all, even pre-draft, as did you, Middlecop, but the good news is, as did everyone, so this didn't affect the standings.
Everyone voted against Domino.
It is true, it is true. There's the saying right there. Dominoes utterly flipped the script here. Every single person figured this was the surefire bet, right? Every single other game is at least slightly contested because of your weird thing with Verdant. But this one, not a single bit of contest. All Unique against Dominoes. Even from draft, it should have been Unique against Dominoes. They had this in the bag. But for me, it's all about that Renekton, right? He was stomping laning phase. He tried to transfer as fast as possible, and maybe they were off on some of the early timing, but my god, did they know how to use him later on. Just get on top of the Xayah. It wasn't a good game to be Cyrax, right? They had his number. No. They didn't want him to live. They didn't want him to play League of Legends at all, and they deleted him at every opportunity. Brilliant play by Dominoes. You know, it shows sometimes you just have to play to your own strengths. Even if you end up playing against your opponent's draft, you have to play to your own strengths. Believe in yourself, you know, power of friendship and all that. And everything can go well for one game every 5.
Oh, that's so inspiring, veteran. I really feel uplifted. Sometimes you just have enough engage, and there's just too many things that you can throw at the enemy AD carry, and you can't. It's not Earth. You can't feathers fly every 10 seconds. Obviously, not particularly clean from Domino, but a win is a win. And I think Fjumpen, I'm really glad that you've highlighted him, because I think for me, personal MVP of that game, very, very strong performance on the Renekton, was really able to effectively shut down Nias. This Karma, didn't really feel like that impactful of a pick, if I'm being honest.
Well, it's difficult to be impactful when you're just looking at a grey screen for the entirety of the laning phase. But honestly, it was supposed to be a buffer after the initial divers happened, right? Braum, Xayah, Maokai are supposed to make it almost impossible for the enemy team to dive you. So they disengage, and Karma enables the re-engage. We wanted to see that Karma Maokai combo, right? Maokai zooming with the Karma shield and making those picks happen, but as the later the game went, the less time we had to actually see any of those things transpire, because the engages were just working. They were just working for Dominoes. The Renekton was getting in, the Vi was on top, everybody, wham, bam, boom, Xayah's out the map, let's clean up the rest, boys, because they don't have the range to deal with us. What is the counter when you see 3 forms of disengage? 5 forms of engage. Well, that's what we learned from this game. I learned something about League of Legends today, middle cot, and Dominoes are the ones that have taught me.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you who's going to be really happy with the result of that game, aside from Dominoes. Vanir, right? They lost to UniQ on the previous game day, and if UniQ had taken the win, then they would have kept up that pressure on Vanir in the middle of the table. Now Vanir have been able to get a little bit of a cushion between themselves and UniQ, and that's so important when they are one of those teams that is contesting for those that last spot in playoffs. But for Domino, this is absolutely brilliant. There's such a momentum shift when you do get that first win after a couple weeks of really not having the best time, and potentially going to push them forward to even greater things.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, you really hope when it comes to these last 2 games that this is the start of something wonderful for the winning teams, right? You've found your identity, you found your victories that you've been chasing for so long, and, you know, that it's not just going to end there, but let's be real, both these games were damn close, right?
Yeah.
Very close games. And the same could even be said that the losing sides absolutely can have some confidence there, because they were inches away from taking that win themselves. They can't just think that Vanir and Dominoes are pulling away from the pack. No. They're still in the game. They're still in this race. They're nipping at their heels, and they just have to push a little bit harder. They can make this even more competitive. The whole of the NLC is uplifted by these 2 games.
And I think it's a result of what we were talking about sort of at the top of the day, where the matchups that we've got today, we are expecting to be a little bit closer. We are expecting to be a bit more hotly contested. And that's really what we've seen from the first 2 games today. It's been back and forth. It's been one team finding an advantage and the other one instantly snatching it away before one team ends up coming out the victor. But looking across the sort of Domino lineup, aside from Fiongbin, were there any players that really impressed you with their performance today?
Aside from Fiongbin, I mean, Flowing was following up ridiculously well on a lot of these fights, right? So I think he would be a guy that I'd be looking towards. His initial parving on Vi, I think, was absolutely spot on. But mostly it comes down to these fights and these picks. If I'm looking at those scenarios, Snarby really sticks out, right? He was a huge part of that whole period in the early late game scenarios where they were making those picks on side, where they were isolating and finding like a 3v1 on pool coming out of base or something like that. He was very critical to all of that. We've highlighted Snarby before for Dominoes, right? He seems to love to play his own kind of lane, right? Lari sometimes has just been completely abandoned on bot while Snarby plays the rest of the map, right? And tries to play almost as if he is his team's jungler. And you could really feel that when it came to mid-late game. It reminded me of the AGO rogue lineup with Vander and Inspired, where Vander on his Leona was very often leading a lot of these picks in mid-late game. And Inspired became a better jungler just off of that. Snarby seems to me to have been very impactful.
All right, so we have got a couple of interviews coming up now, Veteran. First one is going to be with... Going to try and pronounce your name right, mate. Sikyle, is that correct, man?
Shekel.
Shekel, wonderful, excellent. Thank you very much for joining us today. Obviously, first game out for you here on Domino and getting the win. How does it feel? This is a team that had a rougher start to the split, but you've come in and that was a pretty good game for you guys.
Yeah, worked out fine. I think the team is just really easy going. We get well together. I've only been scrimming 2 or 3 times with the team. So we're still trying to find the team identity. So we just tried to go with something that was easy going and engage heavy, and yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, I like that, because on the cast we were sort of talking about the identity, and I like that you've highlighted that it was like, okay, we don't really know what our style is meant to be. Let's just pick something that has one clear identity and one clear goal. And I think that whilst that game was a little bit shaky, while Cyrax did get into some pretty disgusting damage numbers, it looked like you guys just had too much engage for him to deal with.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was also the reasoning behind the comp, right? Just press ult. He can only ult one of our ults, and then just pile on him afterwards and kill him. Well, it got a bit hard later on during the game, because there was also Maokai saplings that had a lot of spacing. But eventually our Syndra and Kaiser just got fed as well, so we could play around them as well. We didn't have to just engage, we could also play front to back and win by like that. So yeah.
When it came to mid-late game, there was a long period where you guys were able to find like 3-man, 4-man picks on side against players like Paul as they were coming out of base. Who was actually leading all of those picks when you were playing away from their groupings?
Well, we just got to the conclusion that we couldn't win straight up 5v5s at that point in the game. We needed to scale a bit more. We needed Kaiser to be active again. So we just tried to look for side picks and see if we could out-rotate them. And, you know, I asked Flexious, you know, can you just go side, hard push side? Maybe someone will look to catch the wave and we'll wait and brush and see if it works, and it worked out. So we got a few kills like that.
Nice. Yeah, no, that worked out really well for you.
Yeah.
I also want to ask you, obviously you've come into this Domino team in week 3. They had Flowing for week 1, they had Porcupine for week 2. Are we going to be seeing you in week 4?
I mean, yeah, I think you're going to be seeing me for the rest of the split for sure. So yeah. And I'm 100% win rate right now, so yeah.
I mean, true. Like, the stats did not lie. And you said that the guys were, like, really easy going. How has that been, sort of, coming into the team in the middle of the split, as it were?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought it would be a bit more chaotic, because the team is 0-4, you know, facts are facts. So, but people took it really slow. They just, you know, everyone is still motivated to win. I have good experience playing in the NLC previously, so I know what I was coming into, and I'm motivated to come in and, you know, see if we can make it to playoffs.
Excellent. Playoffs to the goal then. Well, it's been absolutely great to talk to you, mate. I hope that we get to chill with you for a couple or more winners interviews over the rest of the split.
For sure. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Oh, lovely to hear that, veteran. New jungler coming in. Team is all receptive. They're not flaying him. They're not saying jungle diff or whatever. Comes in, and I mean, it was clear to see that the team really felt like they were on the same page today.
It's good. I don't have to learn another jungler's name next week. It's perfect. It's actually brilliant. They need to get the win now. I mean, like, it's really good to hear, though, that he potentially came in and just immediately had that impact, because those mid to late game picks were very impactful. Even if they weren't fully able to capitalize on it, it showed that Domino's had more to show us, right? Because in the previous games, they've been a bit of a limp team. We have had a lot of questions about them. The frequent roster changes, you know, you're not really able to form an identity. I'm glad that they committed to one, right? Even if it gets countered by the opponents, both of the games today have been a case of, okay, one team is clearly countering the other, but the other team, just because they're playing on their comfort, on their terms, that's able to make their decisions just that little bit more ahead, that allows them to take the game anyway, even with those theoretical disadvantages. I like that. I do think it's true League of Legends. I do think that's actually how it works. I'm glad to see it, you know, continue in this manner.
Excellent. As we are now going to be jumping to a short break before Ruddy take on Nord. That game is going to be an absolute banger. You do not want to miss that.